Om samano mantra samiti samani samanam manassaha chittamesham samani vayakuti samana hridayani vaha samanamastu mano yathavassu swasati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Common be our prayer, common be our end, common be our purpose of life, common be our deliberation, common be our desires, unified be our hearts, united be our intentions, perfect be the union amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. What I have chanted just now is an ancient prayer, which is there in the oldest part of our scriptures, and that is called the Rig Veda. The Veda is the Bible of Hinduism. And Rig Veda is the oldest part of the Veda. Veda means knowledge. So this morning's talk, which I have to give, is on the subject spiritual experience, true and false. While giving this talk, I recall one incident which happened many years ago when Swami Premananda, one of those great saintly disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, was there in our main monastery, which is near Calcutta. It is known as Belur Math. Some young men have come and joined the monastic order, and one of them one day came to Swami Premananda. And Swami Premananda had experienced God. He was one of those exceptional people. In that sense, not all people can experience God. And that young monk came to him and said, "Revered Swamiji, I think I have experienced God." Then Swami Premananda asked him, "Well, that's good news, but do you sometimes have a little bit of doubt about what you have experienced?" Then that young monk said, "Yes, sometimes I have this doubt. Have I experienced God really and truly?" Then Swami Premananda said, "In that case, you have not experienced God." 3 times he said, "In that case, you have not experienced God, you have not experienced God, you have not experienced God." Because our scriptures say that when a person really and truly experiences God, then all doubts are dispelled forever. All doubts about the existence of God are dispelled forever. Just as we don't have doubts about our own existence, it is the strongest conviction that we have. Similarly, a person who really and truly has experienced God gains that conviction that God exists and that cannot be shaken by anything. But that young monk had not got rid of doubts which would assail his mind sometimes about the existence of God, and yet he imagined that he had experienced God. There are genuine spiritual experiences and there are false spiritual experiences. Let me refer to the life of Sri Ramakrishna. He is considered a great saint, and not only that, he is considered a divine incarnation. When he was alive, some people used to come to him. And one thing I should tell you, that is, every person is like a fragrant flower. Just as a fragrant flower emits its fragrance, so also every person emits his or her qualities by transmitting what is known as tanmatra. Our bodies and minds have that very fine particle, not visible to the naked eye. These are called tanmatras. We can only say that they exist. And every person, like a flower, fragrant flower, emits these tanmatras. And the tanmatras represent the quality of the mind of a person. If the mind is very pure, then the tanmatras will be pure. If the mind is not pure or has some major defects, then those tanmatras will also be that way. So when people used to come to Sri Ramakrishna and ask him, "Sir, how can he experience God?" Then Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "You must chant the holy name of God. That means you must think of holy thoughts. And also you must have holy company. Preferably the company of saintly people, or people who are trying to love God. And the minds of such people are better than the minds of others who are engaged in only worldly pursuits, engaged in the enjoyment of sense pleasure and so on." So the saints transmit tanmatras all around them. Just as a fragrant flower is covered all around by the fragrant substance, due to divisibility of matter, the fragrant substance becomes divided into very, very small particles. And that substance forms a mist around a fragrant flower. And when you bring your nose within that mist, you get the perfume, fragrance. So also with people. Unknown to them, the tanmatras are coming out of them and forming some sort of a mist around them. And if a person be saintly, then his tanmatras will be away. Also will be saintly. Who is a saint? Person who has experienced divinity, or a person whose mind is full of love and compassion, whose mind is such that it never droops to the enjoyment of sense organs. The mind which is totally unselfish. Mind which is filled with the thought of divinity, and divinity is holiness itself. So a saint's mind is that way. That's why the tanmatras which come out of a saint's body and mind, they also have such characteristics. When people enter into the midst of such tanmatras of a saintly person, then they have the benefit of having come in close contact with such tanmatras. They become temporarily influenced by those tanmatras. A person who is a super saint, the mist around him which is formed by his holy tanmatras will cover a large area. Sri Ramakrishna was such a saint. People would come to him and would enter into the midst of his tanmatras, as it were, and they would be seated there. And those holy tanmatras which gradually transform the minds of such people. Their minds should be lifted to a higher level of consciousness, spiritual consciousness. And then they would have some spiritual experiences. And it so happened that one day a young man, they call him a boy also, he had come to see Sri Ramakrishna, and there were several other people also there in Sri Ramakrishna's room. And then those people were influenced by the tanmatras of Sri Ramakrishna. But strangely enough, that boy was not influenced for some reason. And those people who had been influenced by Sri Ramakrishna's tanmatras, they had some spiritual experiences. Out of spiritual ecstasy, some were shedding tears, some were laughing. They started behaving like they were so many mad people. And that boy observed them all. And when those people one by one were gone, then he asked Sri Ramakrishna, who among these people had genuine spiritual experience? Then Sri Ramakrishna pondered for a moment and said, only that young man whose name is Latu had genuine spiritual experiences. Others had only a drop or two of spiritual experience. And when those people would return home, their minds would plummet down to their usual level. This young man Latu later on became a saint. He experienced God. And he came to be known as Swami Adbhutananda. All spiritual experiences are not necessarily genuine spiritual experiences. Some of them are not any different from fantasies. And why do people have such fantasies? The first cause is self-deception. They imagine spiritual progress, which they haven't had, but they imagine that they have made some spiritual progress. I overheard one lady, she was elderly, talking to others here. She was saying, the last night, the whole night I spent in meditation. That was an imagination. Because meditation means 100% concentration of mind on the thought of God. The mind will not be thinking of anything else. And if a person meditates for less than half an hour, that person experiences God. And that experience is called samadhi. That means the mind melts away in divinity. Apparently that had not happened to her. But perhaps she was trying to concentrate her mind. And she thought that that was meditation. Otherwise, the entire night she would not need to meditate. After 25 minutes of such meditation, she would have God experience. Apparently she had not had it. So, self-deception. There is another reason for having false spiritual experience, and that can be caused by the guidance of pseudo-spiritual teachers. People who are interested in spiritual life go through a stage which I call the mystery mongering stage. At that time they love mysteries. In some books I have read, God is mentioned as a mystery, but God is not a mystery. A mystery is what we can never know about. But God can be known, God can be experienced. How? By transforming the mind. Making the mind so transformed that it becomes unlike any other mind. And such a mind is called pure mind. And when a person acquires such a mind, that person experiences divinity. Even Jesus used to say, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. He had a handful of followers, all these great teachers who are called divine incarnations. They can be recognized by only a small number of people. People who are already spiritually evolved, only such people can recognize a divine incarnation. Just a handful of followers Jesus had. And he taught them how to pray to God. And before teaching them how to pray, he said, this is how to pray to the invisible God. Those followers had not experienced God yet. Then he said, this is how you should pray, God, who you are in heaven, and so on and so forth. That's how the prayer goes. But the same Jesus Christ has said elsewhere, those people are indeed blessed if they have pure hearts, because with such pure hearts, pure mind, they will see God. They shall. The Bible was first written in Hebrew, I think. Although Jesus taught the others who were around him in Aramaic, speaking in Aramaic language, but later on that was written down after his passing away by some of those who were had been close to him, and that's how those Gospels came. And they were in Hebrew language, and then from Hebrew, this Testament or New Testament was translated into Greek language. And from Greek Bible, an English translation was made at the time of King James of England. And in English, when they say, I shall go, that means a person is about to go somewhere. But when they say, he shall go, that means he must go. Otherwise, the statement would have been, he will go. So in that English translation, it is written in the Bible. That is, blessed are the people who have pure heart, for they shall see God, not they will see God. They will surely and certainly see God, experience God. Pure mind is a mind which has been transformed into an extraordinary mind. And in the language of Vedanta, that is called a predominantly sattvic mind. And a lot of discussion has been there in Hinduism. About these gunas. The mind is composed of 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. And each of these gunas is like a sibling. And each one wants to subdue the other 2 and make itself predominant. Sattva guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. They're like 3 siblings. They constitute the mind of a person and also the body. And Sattva has some wonderful qualities. It creates serenity of mind. It creates compassion in the mind. It creates a state of mind which is called unselfish mind. And it creates a kind of joy which is not mundane joy, but super sensuous joy. If you listen to some spiritual music, then after a while it may so happen that tears will start running down your cheeks. And you will experience a kind of joy which is not the kind of joy that you get when you eat some delicacy. Far superior is that joy to the joy that one has while having sense enjoyment. And it is when these 3 gunas, Sattva guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they're, as I have told you, they're like 3 siblings. They always go on wrestling with one another. And each one wants to become prominent by subduing the other 2. And Rajoguna has the characteristics of energy and activity, restlessness, egoism. These are the characteristics of Rajoguna. When the mind is overpowered by Rajoguna, when Rajoguna has become preponderant in the mind, all these characteristics will be noticed in the same mind. Then the third guna, which is called Tamoguna, that is the worst of the three. When it becomes preponderant, it brings confusion and lethargy to the mind. And it creates a tendency for committing violence. When Rajoguna becomes preponderant in the mind, then also it has a tendency to create violence, which is caused by anger. But that anger may have some valid reason. But when a person's mind is overpowered by tamoguna, then that mind will be overpowered with unjustifiable anger. And when a person's mind is under the control of this tamoguna, at that time, that confused mind does certain things which are really very bad. You hear about religious riots. Some innocent people are killed by some others. And those who kill such innocent people, their minds are overpowered by tamoguna. They are not able to understand things clearly. They are confused. They cannot understand the true meaning of the teachings that are there in the religions. They misunderstand those teachings. And in the name of religion, they kill innocent people. It is the worst among all these gunas. But a person whose mind has preponderance of sattva guna, that person is saintly. And it is possible through spiritual practice to make one guna preponderant in the mind for a prolonged period of time. And that can be done only through spiritual practice under the guidance of a proper spiritual teacher. Such people will never kill anybody in the name of religion. Such people will be incapable of hating anybody, because hatred will not be there in such people's minds, because sattva guna is preponderant in their minds. They will have only love and compassion and selfless thought. They will help selflessly other people, not with any ulterior gain. Such a mind can experience divinity. When the mind has preponderance of tamoguna or rajoguna, at that time the mind understands anything which is mysterious or spiritual. They want to go to a fake saint because they have heard that saint has some occult powers. And they go to such fake saints and become victims of such fake saints. I've seen a few fake saints. When I was a young man, I got involved with such a saint. And at that time I had been going through the stage of a mystery monger. I had been told that he had occult powers. He could read the thoughts of everyone and he could tell what would happen in the future and all these things. So I went, a boy I was at that time. Then I discovered that some of the things that he would say, they were quite untrue. They were not true. He told me about a few things about my immediate future, but none of those things came true, and I was lucky that way. Otherwise, there is always a probability factor. You see, there was, and such fake saints can say, of course nowadays there are so many equipment with the help of which they can tell whether the baby which is in the mother's body is a boy or a girl. But but I'm talking about a time when that was this equipment, all these equipment were not there. Then had a fake saint said, "You will have a son born," then there was 50% probability that would come true. And had it come true, then that person said, "Oh, the saint said that he knew about it, that I would have a son." I knew one gentleman who used to come to that questionable saint to whom I had been going as a boy, just for a brief while, for 2 or 3 years I went. And the saint told him that he would have a son, but unfortunately a daughter was born to him. Then others who had been coming to the saint, they said, "How come what the saint said did not come true?" Then that gentleman said, "You think it is easy to understand the meaning of the words of a saint?" Still he wanted to rely on that saint. There are some people who are that way. And then after a while, I and 2 other friends who had gone to him, we were disillusioned. We did not go to him anymore. Then I can talk about myself. I could not trust any other saint for a while. Then a thought came to my mind. That is, am I not behaving like a person who went to the grocery store and bought 1 egg, and after bringing that egg home, after breaking it open, he finds out that the egg was rotten. Then he concludes that all eggs of the world are rotten. That is not rational thinking. Fortunately, that saved me. Then I said, there are saints, but their number must be very small, because they're the best among people. And how much cream does milk have? Very little. How much honey does a flower have? Very little. And when I visited, after many years, when I visited France, someone took me there, and we visited a perfume factory. And I was told at the time that 1 ton of roses had to be subjected to destructive distillation, and then rose perfume would be obtained from there. How much rose perfume would they get? 1 liter. From 1 ton of roses. So the best is always the smallest in quantity. So also are the saints. Luckily I learned that when I was quite young. But I did not have a saint detector. How would I judge a saint? And then I prayed to God, God, please take me to a genuine saint. By that time I had been vaccinated against spurious saints. Because I had learned the signs and symptoms of some spurious saints and what they do. That helped me to protect myself from such saints. But how to find a genuine saint? The only recourse left for me was to pray to God. God, please show me. And eventually, God helped me. God grants some prayers that I have seen in my life. Not all our prayers, but some prayers. A so-called saint came here to this country, and he claimed that he knew how to teach levitation. And some people paid several $100s to learn how to levitate. Two such persons who were associated with that so-called saint, they eventually became members of our church because they had become disillusioned. Then I asked one of them, will you please show me what kind of levitation he taught? Then he sat on the floor and pushing against his two palms which are on the floor, he was hopping. So this kind of levitation he taught. I said, this is levitation. They were lucky. They had spent many $100s. And they were told, the superior kind of levitation, if you want to learn, you have to pay so many $1,000s. And one girl once came here. Unfortunately, he had fallen into the clutches of a pseudo-saint. And he told me that my teacher told me that I don't have to worry because always Ganesha and the Hindu god Ganesha and Shiva, they're always protecting me, she said. Anyway, she had faith in that teacher. Then a Russian consul general used to come to our center. There was a lady who was the wife of some official in the Indian consulate in Moscow. She used to sometimes appear on Russian TV, and she would teach some spiritual techniques. Because to many people in the West, India is a country of mystery, you see. So she pretended to know how to help people have God experience. And she taught people to do what is called hyperventilation. That is breathing out, you see, again and again for a prolonged type of time. Breathing in a little and then breathing out for a longer period. Then what happens? The brain becomes, at that time, not only confused, but one must suffer from some kind of dizziness also. It's hyperventilation. And that consul general thought that that was something good. I said, no, what you learned is not correct. He kept on coming. And eventually he was transferred from Seattle to some other place. And some pseudo-teachers, they also, I knew one member, she was quite ambitious. She wanted to be many things, but unfortunately she couldn't become any of those things, really. And then she went to a pseudo-teacher, and the pseudo-teacher saw her and said, you know one thing, you were Michelangelo in your past incarnation. And that made her happy. You were Michelangelo in your past incarnation. And that pseudo-teacher also told her that she had some great psychic power. So she came and told me all those things. So one day, and she started thinking that he was a psychic. Then one day, at that time, the bookstore that we have, that used to be the kitchen. And there were only two swamis. One swami was bedridden and I was the second one. And there were a few members who would come. Then she was there, present there. So there was a table, the dining table. Then I told her, "You are psychic? Very good. Tell me what I am thinking." Then she put her two fingers like this, as though two antennas. And then she said, "You are blocking your thoughts." Of course, she could not know what I was thinking. "You are blocking," she said. She knew the way out. She had learned the way out also. She kept on coming for a while. And she felt proud that she had acquired a power which others did not have. She had acquired no power at all, really. And why did she do that? Because people have a craving to feel superior to others. And well, I have told many times that those who want to be superior, they're convinced that they're inferior. That's why they want to be superior. Those who are really superior, they don't want to be superior. But there is a universal dream, as admitted by the psychologists, that in that dream, one sees oneself flying while others cannot do that. Everybody has such a dream. Flying through the air, like swimming through the air. But other people cannot do that. Only the dreamer can do that. And the psychologists say that the craving to feel superior to others, that is fulfilled at that time. And also, there is, due to some mental illness also, people may think that they are having some spiritual experience. I had a boyhood friend who, when he was about 20, he became a photographer, a good one. But unfortunately, his mother had some mental illness and she had to be institutionalized. And he was all right until he was 21 or so. Then he went to a particular religious group, a questionable one, and then he started imagining things. He told me one day that he could hear the voices of people who are talking a distance away. Not within hearing distance away. And one day he said that he saw some kind of light. Then I got worried about him. Then I said, go and talk to your doctor. And the doctor could detect that these were the signs of mental illness, really. And gave him some treatment. And after treatment, he became well for a while. And after many years, I happened to visit, and I was in this country. I'd been in this country for quite a few years then. And I happened to visit that city where I grew up. And while I was, that is a city up on the hills, so when I was walking down the hill, there's a paved road. Then I saw someone who was intently looking at me. And he looked strange, unkempt hair and all this. And he came to me and asked me, "Are you Jyoti?" That was my pre-monastic name. I said, "Yes." Then he said, "I am Jhunu." That means that young man whom I used to know. He had not been taking medicines or anything. You see, that's why he was, unfortunately, he was quite insane. Walking around here and there. And I was so sorry to see him. When do people have genuine spiritual experience? While watching a movie which is on the life of Jesus Christ, a person's spiritual feelings may be roused and tears may run down that person's cheeks also. That is possible. But that is no sign that that person has made any spiritual progress. That is caused by the emotion, temporary emotion. When does a person have genuine spiritual experience? That has been given in our scriptures very clearly. And it is said that there is some spiritual power dormant in every person, man or woman. It is dormant. And it can be awakened through spiritual practice, such as chanting of the holy name, having the company of holy people. Anyone who is genuinely trying to love God, that person's company is holy company. So, through and also chanting of the holy name or trying to meditate under the instruction of a proper teacher, it may so happen that that dormant spiritual power will become suddenly awakened. And every person's backbone has three channels running through it, extremely fine channels. And the yogis have come to know that. And the central channel is called Sushumna channel. And the left channel is called Ida channel. And the right channel is called Pingala channel. When we are busy and active doing things mentally or physically, then our energy passes through these two channels, Ida or Pingala channel. When we are busy doing activities, whether mental or physical, then it is at that time the energy passes through the right channel. And if you put your two fingers in front of your two nostrils and blow out, then you will find at that time the breath, outcoming breath through your right nostril will be stronger. You can try it now. Blow out. Is it to the right? Because you are listening, intently listening to this talk. But when you will be at rest, then after a while you will see, if you blow through your nostrils that way, then you will find that the breath through the left nostril will become stronger. And when energy passes through the central channel, then the breath will be even through both the nostrils. That rarely comes. And when this Ida channel and Sushumna channel, through them the energy passes up and down. But the Sushumna channel is a channel, the lowest part of which is closed. And through spiritual practice, suddenly that Sushumna channel will become open at the lowest end. And then energy, that's spiritual energy which is usually dormant, that starts coming up through that channel, through the Sushumna channel. And then the person feels, will have certain symptoms will appear. That person will really feel, that person is sitting there and perhaps trying to meditate, and will feel that something is coming up from the lowest end of the backbone, as it were. And that at that time, the person may feel some kind of joy and also a kind of mild ache. And then the body will start trembling. Involuntary trembling of the body will come. Then that person will have to hold his palms together like that in order to stop the trembling. But still the body will start trembling. And tears will start rolling down the cheeks of that person. And tears will come out of the outer corners of the eyes, not the inner corners. And there will be horripilation, that means hair will stand on end. Just like when you touch something which is statically electricity, you sometimes feel that your hair is standing up. So that will start happening again and again and again. And there can be profuse perspiration, mainly in the area of the chest. These are some indications, symptoms, showing that the dormant spiritual power, which is called Kundalini power, that has become awakened and that has started coursing upward to the Sushumna channel. And when that energy will come, and it passes through several levels of consciousness. That level which is at the base of the spine, that is called Muladhara in Sanskrit. And when the dormant spiritual energy becomes awakened, which is called Kundalini. Why is it called Kundalini? This is a Sanskrit word, which means something which is in the shape of a coil. Just like a snake, when it goes into hibernation, just before that it coils itself up. That energy is in a dormant state. The word Kundalini means a spiral, and Kundali means a spiral. But the energy is called Shakti, that is in Sanskrit it has feminine gender. That's why that power is called Kundalini power. That Kundalini Shakti, when it becomes awakened, it starts coming out. It will come, it will pass through that level, which is in the area where the organs of reproduction are there. And that level is called Swadhisthana. Then it will go further up. It will come at the level of the navel. The navel we have at that level. And that is called Manipura. Then it is coming up through the Sushumna channel though. And then when it comes to the area which is near your heart, then that level is called the Anahata level. And then it will go further up if you are lucky, and it will come to a level of consciousness which is in the region of your throat. That is called Vishuddha channel. Vishuddha. Not channel, Vishuddha level. And then it will come in between the eyebrows. That is another level. It is called Anga level. And beyond that level is the Sahasrara level, which is somewhere inside the brain. And when this energy goes to that Sahasrara level, then a person experiences Samadhi. And also our scriptures talk about three types of space. We are all sitting here in that space which is called Mahakasha. All the planets and stars which are in the sky, they are also in Mahakasha. Then, when we imagine things, that imagination takes place in what is called Chittakasha. When we fall asleep and start having dreams, then those experiences are all had in, not in Mahakasha, but in Chittakasha, mind space, in mental space that happens. The experiences that you have in your Chittakasha, while you are having dreams, those experiences are not real. There you may see that you have become a king or a queen, but when you wake up, you come to know that you never became a king or a queen. Those were not real experiences. And in Mahakasha also, whatever experiences we have, they are not quite real. One gets to know that when one enters into another space, that is called Chidakasha, when the Kundalini power enters into the Sushumna channel, then a person, at that time, that person's mind exists in knowledge space, Chidakasha. At that time, whatever experiences that person has, those are all real experiences. And when that Kundalini power has come to that heart level, Anahata level, then that person will see some kind of light, quite unlike the light that you experience in this world. A person who is born blind will also experience that light. This, and sometimes that light, that luminosity will take the shape of certain forms of divinity, because people have different imaginations that divinity is like this, or some divine being such as a divine incarnation. Let me take the instance of Jesus Christ. A person who is a Christian, if that person's Kundalini power has come to the heart level, and that in that luminosity, that person will see a luminous form of Jesus Christ based on a painting of Jesus that that person may have seen. A Hindu will see, he has seen some images of God in the form of Shiva, Vishnu, or whatever. That person will see that luminosity taking the forms of such deities. These experiences are genuine spiritual experiences, though. Are those forms real? Yes, partially, one could say. Because still, the mind is creating some, the mind is active there and creating some forms there. And then when Kundalini power comes to the neck level, then that person will not see such light or anything, but will only like to think of God and holy things. That person will not like to talk about other things, unless compelled. And if that Kundalini power remains there, it is very fortunate. And from there it will come up to that level someday, in between the eyebrows. That is called the Ajna level. And then a person will experience divinity. Yet, between divinity and the person who is experiencing, there will be a sort of invisible glass wall, as it were. Experiencing but not able to touch it, so to say. That is also genuine God experience. And when the Kundalini power will go further off, then it will go to Sahasrara. At that time, the mind of the person will melt away in divine consciousness. His or her individuality will not be there anymore. That is genuine spiritual experience. That is the highest samadhi. And all these experiences which a person has, spiritual experiences which a person has, when the Kundalini power becomes awakened and starts coursing through the Sushumna channel, these are all genuine spiritual experiences. And then Kundalini power may become awakened in some people. And if it comes up to the heart level, that anahata level, then that person will see some light, inner light. But there the Kundalini power will not stay there. It will have a tendency to go down again and fall asleep. And then again that person will have to wait for another awakening of the Kundalini. And while this power goes down, then there is a danger when it passes through that level which is called Swadhisthana, which is in the region where the reproductive organs are there. And while coming down to that level, that person may be overwhelmed by lustful thoughts. That danger is there. That's why all spiritual aspirants have to exercise moral and ethical restraints. Because if they try to do so, then at that time they will not be overwhelmed by such impulses. Otherwise, some people may have had a little bit of awakening of experience. And that happens in case of some musicians also. When they concentrate on music, you see, and they perform music, at that time their Kundalini power sort of becomes awakened, comes up to the navel, and then it goes down. And when it goes down, that person becomes overpowered with lustfulness. That's why most musicians, they have that big problem. They indulge in sexuality too much. That's why there are dangers associated with this also. So genuine spiritual experience will come only when the Kundalini has become awakened and has started coursing through the Sushumna channel. Those experiences are real. When a person sees that light, inner light, that memory will remain, will not go away, because that was genuine experience. And then if one's Kundalini power came up to that level in between the eyebrows, that person has become a saint. It will never go down again and fall asleep, that spiritual power. The most it will come down will come up to the neck level. And if the Kundalini power has come up to the neck level of any spiritual aspirant, that person is indeed lucky, because The lowest level where it can go will be the heart level, where there is luminosity. It will not go any lower. So this has been, you can experience it, you will know it when that will happen to you. Until then, you go on practicing. And also you pray for the grace of God. By your own effort alone, you may not achieve the highest. As Sri Ramakrishna puts it beautifully through a parable. A ship was moored in a harbor. And then a bird came and sat on the mast of that boat and fell asleep. And then the boat weighed anchor and gradually went to the high seas. And then the bird woke up. And it was alarmed to see water all around. It wanted to go to land. Then it started flying. It went to the north, but couldn't find land. To the south, to all the directions this bird flew, but couldn't find land. Then its wings became completely tired of flying. Then it came back and sat on the mast of that boat. And it didn't try to go. It didn't try to fly again. That must is God. The spiritual practice, whatever you do, that is like, these are meant to make your wings ache. A time will come when you will feel, or by that time you will have progressed a lot mentally. Your mind has acquired a state of preponderance of sattva-guna. Yet you have not experienced God. And then a great yearning will be generated in your heart. And you pray to God, please show yourself to me. Please give me that experience. Then you will feel God's grace. And you will have the experience. There is no mystery about spiritual life. Spiritual life is no other than mental life. Spiritual practice is no other than to teach your mind to go through certain disciplines, to make the mind pure and purer and purer, and the purest eventually. And what can help you? Selfless activities and chanting of something which is holy, such as the name of God. Having the company of the holy. All these things will help. I've seen some people who are not monks or anything. I saw them. They were devotees. They were worldly people. After many years of spiritual practice, I saw some of them. They were totally transformed. They're all the time talking about spiritual things. Not about cars, houses, cruises and all. No, not at all. And they found some peace of mind. This word peace is very valuable. It is not enjoyment, sense enjoyment. Sense enjoyment is called sukham in Sanskrit. But this peace is called shanti, anandam, a superior kind of joy. It is neither enjoyment nor suffering. In Sanskrit it is called shanti. Shanti is another word which indicates God. The same word is present in other religions also. In Judaism, the word shalom is there. It means the same thing. Islam, the word Islam means peace. and peace is God. So one will eventually attain peace, will become one with peace. That is the goal of spiritual life. That's why when people would come to Sri Ramakrishna and would ask him, "Sir, what is the goal of human life? Or how shall you experience God?" Or they would also ask, "What is the goal of human life?" He would say, without a moment's hesitation, the goal of human life is to experience God, experience divinity, which is in a dormant state in you. He would not say that, but that will eventually become manifest. That is the goal of human life. To gain name, fame, power and position, that is the goal of human life. Oh, what a laugh. A saint will never say that. A saint has experienced something experiencing which a person becomes perfect, a person becomes fulfilled. Be ye perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. That's what Jesus said. That perfection in us, that perfection is another name of God. That is trying to become manifested. And they can be manifested through spiritual practice. Then the dormant spiritual power will be awakened, and eventually we will have that experience. And everyone who tries will surely and certainly succeed sooner or later. It depends upon how much that person is trying. Tivra samveganam asannaha. There is one great sage of India. His name is Patanjali. He used to say. He talked about samadhi, that means that God experience. Those who make great effort, for them the goal is near. Tivra samveganam asannaha. But you are in the world, you have to take care of so many things. Yes. Spiritualize everything. That is the instruction of these great souls. Think that your house is not your house, it is God's house, it is God's temple. Your spouse is not your spouse, but God's son or daughter. You are also God's child. Your children are God's children. You are working somewhere. That work is related to some people. You are working for a company which manufactures things, those things will be used by people. So you should think that God is in charge of this company. And because this company will serve people who are God's children. Everyone is God's child. So you will try to serve God by serving those people. By giving the best service that you can. In this manner, everything can be spiritualized. Then there won't be any difference between a monk and a householder. These instructions have been given by whom? By these super saints like Ramakrishna and others. He said, Sri Ramakrishna said, do this. Think that your house is God's house. You are God's child. Your spouse is God's child. Your children are also God's children. You don't have to give up anything, but just change your attitude of mind. This is spiritual practice. First you have to hear, and if you think that this is a good thing to do, then you have to again and again repeat, tell your mind. When the thought will come, this is my house. No, this is not my house. You carry an invisible whip and go on whipping your mind. When the mind will say, this is my house, you say, no, this is God's house. My children, no, God's children. That is sadhana. Sadhana means practice. Something which cannot be done at the first attempt. That can be done through repeated practice. And spiritual practice is called sadhana. And the Sanskrit word sadhana means the same thing. You have to do it repeatedly. Then it will become normal and natural for you. All right, let us all pray to Almighty God so that God God is always helping us. Let us know that God is always helping us to become better. And how? By manifesting our divinity. Let us remember it. Thank you. Now let me conclude with the chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tatsat. All that is invisible is no other than God. All that is visible is also God. The whole universe has come out of God. God is infinite, although the whole universe has come out of God. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.